I'm Eduardo Benavides. I'm a partner with the Berninzon and Benavides law firm in Lima, Peru. We are a full-service business law firm representing foreign investors doing business in Peru, as well as local companies. I'm a corporate partner. My day-to-day activities are normally on representing foreign corporations in M&As, acquisition of assets, setting up companies and business structures, and similar. A quick outlook on Peru. This is where we are, in the middle of the Pacific coastline in the South America. We have around 32 million people. Most of them urban. Peru used to be a very rural country 80, 90 years ago, but it has turned out to be mainly growing around the cities, and the big cities are really in the coast. People normally ask me, is it everything about Cusco and the Andes? No, really the big cities growing and booming during the last years are not only Lima, but the cities in the Peruvian coastline. 1.3 million square meters. The principal language is Spanish. Unfortunately, the ancient languages like Quechua are being lost, and people speak more and more Spanish nowadays. Free religion, but a majority of Catholics, and natural resources is one of the strengths of the country. We are a strong mining, agro, fishing, and timber country. In geography, we are 2 times the size of the state of Texas. We're not a huge country, but we are pretty nice size. The country is divided mainly in 3 regions, and it's a very diverse country. The green side on the east, to your right side, that's the jungle, is the biggest area of the country, but very unpopulated. But at the same time, is where we have a lot of the resources, the oil and gas, the mining, the timber. There's a lot of that in the jungle, in the Amazon rainforest. Then the middle part, which is the brown part, that's the Andes, and that's where we have most of our mining resources. Peru is very strong, one of the biggest mining producers in the world. And very narrow strip, Indiaro, at the left side, close to the Pacific Ocean, that's the coast. That's mostly desertic. People will normally think it must be tropical. No, it's very desertic, never rains. That's thanks to the Humboldt water current, which is cold. And that's where we have the main cities, starting with Lima, which is a 10 million people city. The capital of the country is a huge city. And that's also where we have most of the agriculture. Irrigation projects have been very successful in bringing water from the Andes into the plains of the coast, and that those plains have been irrigated and turned into very successful production units exporting to the world. In terms of demography, we have a fantastic opportunity with the population bonus. Our population is quite young, in average 28 years. And that, of course, creates a lot of opportunities, both in terms of a young workforce, but also in terms of consumption. We have this growing young people, a population, very modern and very eager in consuming products, which obviously is a very nice opportunity for you guys in the US exporting to our markets. The society, also the social pyramid, has also been completely transformed in a period of 10 to 20 years. We used to have a very small middle class, and thanks to the good years of growing economy, Peru grew during 20 years at rates of 8%, which is huge, the highest in Latin America. And then the last 10 years it has been 4%, which is still good, 4 to 5%. So the result of that is that our middle class, which was very, very small, now it's the majority of the country, around 60% or more people in the middle class. And that middle class, of course, is the one driving the increase and the growth of Some economic aspects, and I promise I will be quick really on this. Strong GDP growth. Our GDP growth last year was 4.5%. This year is expected also to be 4.5 to 5%. Very stable growth also through the years, and that obviously has created a lot of benefits to the Peruvian population. Very low inflation, one of the lowest in Latin America, around 2%. It has been the same for the last 30 years. Fortunately, we learned from our mistakes. There was a time in the 80s when the economy was very badly managed. Since the 90s, we made all the necessary economic reforms. We opened the economy, and there's a strong consensus among Peruvian political parties that we need to pursue on keeping the fundamentals of the economy. Open economy, open markets. High international reserves, very low in terms of percentage of public debt. The fiscal policies and the fundamentals of the economy, the Peruvian economy, are very, very strong. Investment continues booming, and I will explain a little bit more about that. Peruvian currency is pretty stable, as well as the indicators in employment and social. Direct investment has been, in general, going quite well. The main investors, the main areas the main industries and the main investors in the country, those will be mining in terms of industries, and in terms of countries, it's Spain, the #1 investor, and then the UK, and the US is the third biggest investor. But the investment pie is also pretty diversified, because we have strong investments also coming from China and Asia, as well as from Europe. The UK will become the #1 investor probably starting from this year, because they are pursuing a huge mining investment, the Quellaveco project from Anglo American. That's a $15 billion investment, and that will allow the UK to become the #1 investor in Peru. In terms of industries and investment, mining is quite strong. Peru is definitively a very strong mining country, same as Chile. Different from Chile, which is strongly concentrated in copper. In our case, Peru is a very diversified mining country. So we are very fortunate, thanks to the Andes mountains, to have a lot of mining resources. So we rank among the top 10 mining producers for silver, gold, copper, zinc, lead, and many other products. But also investment in transport and communications, in energy, and in manufacturing has become quite strong. Some of the growth opportunities to get in, and also opportunities for US companies to get into the market. The Peruvian economy is certainly growing quite a lot, but there's still a lot of space in order to get into the market. So if we compare some of these statistics regarding sales of how Peru ranks compared to our neighbors or to countries in the region, you can see that, for example, the percentage of market share of supermarkets is quite low compared to countries like Chile or like Colombia or Argentina. Or the number of sales of cars, although new cars, it has grown quite a lot, and we are selling more than Colombia now. It's still half the size of what we have in car sales in Chile. So what that means, with a very strong domestic market, is that the opportunities are there in terms of growth. Some strengths of Peru growing forward. I will go quickly through this. I think we already talked about many of these issues. I will just stress out the infrastructure gap. The Peruvian economy has been growing very, very fastly, but what has been left behind is infrastructure. So different from other countries, Chile, for example, in our case, infrastructure has there's a lot to do in terms of building infrastructure. So talking about everything from highways to ports, airports, generation facilities, hospitals, jails, everything is to be done. And that is, of course, great opportunities not only for investors, but also for contractors, suppliers, vendors, companies with high specialization and engineering in doing this kind of projects. Just an example, the Lima airport, which has been a fantastic success story, it was privatized in the early 2000s. It's already short of space. We are doing a new expansion. A US construction company has been awarded the bid, and that will be a fantastic $1 billion investment during the next 4 years. A lot of opportunities there also for contractors and vendors. In terms of our foreign trade, imports and exports, we are also in Latin America one of the countries that has a bigger number of free trade agreements. More than 90% of the top world economies have free trade agreements with Peru. Our foreign trade is also very diversified. Probably 1/3 goes to Asia, 1/3 to the US, and 1/3 to Europe. Asia obviously has been growing, especially China, which is one of the main markets of destination for our agro and mining exports. Very important also the Pacific Alliance. Peru has a very successful integration and trade model together with Colombia, Mexico, and Chile that will allow the biggest integrated market in the region. The current economic activity is clearly driven also by domestic demand, which is very strong. Total investment has fostered also employment. The rate of employment fortunately is growing, which is very important for a country like Peru. Peru has very low unemployment, but has a huge informal economy. So fostering formal employment is a key issue in terms of growth of the country. Peru also has been doing quite well in terms of the international ratings by the credit agencies. We are second in terms of ratings to Chile, and we are the only one that has not been downgraded during the last years. So this is also a special recognition from the markets to Peru, doing quite well in terms of the economic fundamentals. We will continue to lead the region according to the World Bank and most of the investment banks in terms of sound fiscal fundamentals. I will go through this, but production and GDP growth is very consistent. The Peru's current account deficit is also one of the lowest in the regions, highest reserves, and as I was saying, very strong macroeconomics. Now, some of the important investment projects going on in Peru and which raise opportunities. Probably other than mining, transport infrastructure is one that will be attracting a lot of attention. I was talking about the airport, but it's not only the airport. The city of Lima, 10 million people city, doesn't have an efficient public transportation system. This is something that has just started with a second line of the subway, but 4 more lines to come. New ports and port optimization. At the same time, that's another area where new investment will be coming and new opportunities will be created. But clearly there are many other areas in terms of transport and infrastructure that will see this trend towards much more active participation of foreign investment. Water and health are other 2 areas which I call your attention to look at, because the need of specialized suppliers, equipment, and technology is clearly an advantage. This is the private-public system, which I will not explain. It's very similar to what other countries, Chile and Argentina, have. These are some of the challenges in terms of projects. Of course, as I was saying, mining continues to be one of the key activities and the portfolio of investment during the last year was $2.5 billion. This year it will multiply 10 times thanks to two major projects coming into the pipeline. Many other areas like transport and energy and water are also going to bring a lot of very nice opportunities. And then very quickly, my doing business in Peru, I promise won't be long. In terms of the general framework for foreign investment, the rules, we are very open and very liberal. That means any foreign investor can come into Peru and can invest without the need of any special licenses or permits. Peruvian foreign investors will be treated exactly the same as Peruvian investors. They will have the right to own property, they will have the right to invest in companies, they will have the right to free trade, to export, to remit dividends and transfer capitals without going through any kind of process. There are no exchange controls, so you don't even need to go through central bank controls. You can put your money in the US on the same day. And it's even very simple to transact and to do agreements in Peru. You can do it in English, you can do it in US dollars or foreign currency. It's a quite business-friendly country. In terms of acquisition of property, free investment in almost in all industries and sectors. So you can buy a company 100%, you can buy real estate property. The only limitations are 50 kilometers on the borderline. If you want to buy property there, you need to have a special permission. But there are a number of cases, especially oil and gas companies and mining companies, they have land in the jungle area and the borderline area, and they got it just based on a proposal in order to develop an economic facility. Also, in terms of some industries like public broadcasting, you need to have a local partner. Setting up a subsidiary is very easy. You don't need a local partner. You can do it 100% on your own. You can have a US general manager. You can have a US board of directors. You don't have the complicated rules you may have in other cases where you need to deal with a local partner. Employment, obviously this is a big challenge, and I subscribe 100% what Fernando was saying about Mexico. Always a head up about employment and dealing with the unions and with employment matters. The taxes, the Peruvian system is pretty straightforward. Two main taxes, income corporate tax and VAT. VAT is 18%. In corporate income tax is 29% on net revenue of local companies. Non-domicile companies providing services in Peru will normally have a 30% withholding tax. And our import duties are pretty low. Actually, more than 90% of imports to Peru pay zero import duties. They are exempt from import duties either because of free trade agreements or because of the specific import duties of the products. And in average, for the rest, it is 5% in import duties. And last but not least, this is also my laundry list. Similar to Fernando in Mexico, I also have my 10 tips for success in Peru. My first one is, and I think this might apply actually for many of our jurisdictions in Latin America. First, do get to know your business partners. Many of the phone calls I get on a Friday evening is from a US company. They had a wrong agreement with a local partner. They went for drinks and they did a bad deal. And they trusted 100% that this guy had all the local contacts, had the expertise, and then the guy ends getting all the rights over the property, over the building, over the trademark. So you really need to do a good due diligence and trust your local advisors also on this. Really do a good due diligence in finding who is your local business partner, what kind of connections and reputation does he have, what kind of records and track does he have behind. People in our countries, Mexico, Peru, Argentina, they are very nice. They are good for hanging around, and they can introduce you to very nice people, and they can take you to the favorite restaurant and bar. But you need to be very cautious in terms of finding out who is who in our places. Second, do meet with local government and do consider political environment. In our countries, of course, changes in political environment can be quite quick, especially if you are working in highly sensitive areas or industries, mining, telecoms, energy. You really need to keep an eye on that, and you really need to be aware and have face-to-face meetings with local authorities. Many US companies, they trust the local partner to do that kind of job. And they say, I don't want to meet the minister, I don't want to meet the regulator, I will let my local partner do that kind of job. I don't want to be in any case dealing on local issues with the regulator or the Ministry of the sector. I strongly encourage people doing business in Peru to seek that kind of direct relation. Third, do not assume that a given business structure grants you the same rights as in your country. Again, many times, the US company will read a certain business structure in Peru, a joint venture, for example, through the glasses of how that structure may work in the US. And it might not work exactly the same. A joint venture in Peru, for example, might have not only in legal terms, but also in business terms, a completely different meaning as in the US. So you really need to do a reality check on this. Double check with your local council on what exactly is the meaning of that certain business structure. And of course, this seems pretty obvious. Do consider the tax, the employment, and the immigration issues in advance. Getting your manager in the US transferred to Peru will not be a matter of a couple of days and he will get the visa, the working visa in the airport. It might take some time, there might be issues and a lot of paperwork to take care of. Do consider all the employment legal framework about that US manager. He might end having a Peruvian local contract, and when you want to transfer him back to the US, he might be protected by the severance package of Peru, and he may become very, very expensive to transfer to the US or to make him redundant. So these are the kind of things you need to really plan in advance. And taxes, exactly the same. Next one, do exercise due diligence when purchasing real estate property, when acquiring assets and companies. Sometimes people, or sometimes investors, they think because of the size of this company, because this is a trial business for me, it doesn't make much sense to do a lot of due diligence. And then you end married or you end buying an asset that becomes really very toxic because this company has a back record behind with a lot of problems and issues with the government, with a lot of problems with other stakeholders, local partners, and it would really become a nightmare for you. And in Peru and in many of our countries, it is not as easy as saying, okay, that's a toxic asset, I will close the business, I will put it in liquidation. Sometimes you really need to stay with the business for a while until you are able to close it. Of course, do protect your trademark and intellectual property. Peru and many of our countries, they are well known for not giving as much importance to intellectual property as they should, or if they give importance, the enforcement of IP infringement tends to be quite weak. We are well known for being able to buy in the streets from Nike t-shirts to cigarettes and many products that are fake. And of course, there needs to be a special effort in terms of also seeking for trademark registration and IP protection. Do care about written agreements. I hear from time to time from people, I have this agent or distributor in Peru, but I'm well protected because I don't have anything in writing. I haven't given him a written agreement. That's on purpose because I want to have the flexibility to change him sometime in the near future. That can be a wrong approach, because the fact that you don't have this written agreement with all these clauses that will allow you to early terminate the agreement will be a disadvantage. The distributor or the agent will be able to prove that there is a commercial relation and might have a much stronger position in terms of defending his rights than having a written agreement. Plus the fact that if the content of the commercial relation is ambiguous, it's not clear, obviously the one that is in a weaker position is the manufacturer. Next one is, do not assume the local infrastructure is fully developed. As I was saying, in countries like Peru, we are still really underdeveloped in terms of infrastructure. One common mistake I find with clients is they close a certain business and they tell me, I thought this mining property or this power generation or this place was very close from Lima, because I gave a look to the map and it was just like 20 kilometers away. So I thought it's a piece of cake, pretty easy. I can go there on a Friday morning and I'll be there in a couple hours. So big mistake, because of course our countries not only do not have the infrastructure, but the geography can be very complicated. And then getting from one place to the other, there might be a highway, but that highway might be 7-8 hours away, or it might be closed part of the day, or it might have several other problems in terms of getting access to the place. So the infrastructure, not only highways, but ports, airports, access, and so on, that can be really challenging. Last but not least, do be patient. Really, in our countries, many times the clock doesn't work like in the US. And you will find that a lot of times when calling Latin America. I'm sure many of you do business there. And as Fernando was saying, many times your local partner or your customer in Peru will tell you either, yes, I might look at that, or will tell you, I will have an answer by Monday, or will tell you, yes, give me a couple days. And those couple days in Latin American terms, they might mean a couple months and not a couple days. So, in summary, success abroad is in countries like Peru determined really by the same principles as at home, which is really doing a good due diligence. To take full advantage of market opportunities in Peru, really exercise appropriate caution, conduct proper due diligence, and do engage local counsel. Thank you.